Now with more.
By storm-caused damage and flooding.
At the South Shore, we were staying there, and the ocean's really coming in strong now.
Bermuda's multi-million-dollar tourist industry has been having a bad year, and now Hurricane Felix is not helping. Downtown Hamilton, mecca for tourists and honeymooners over the years, was virtually a ghost town by mid-afternoon. Storefronts have been boarded up in expectation of night-long hurricane-force winds, more than 70 miles an hour. There'd been a run on hardware stores, grocery stores, and bank ATMs. Only a few hardy vacationers were out. The Hamilton Harbor is empty of ocean liners in the rising winds and tides. Bermudians created a traffic jam going home after shops and businesses shut down. Bermuda was scheduled to vote on independence from Britain in a controversial election tomorrow. Now it is doubtful there will be a meaningful vote because of Hurricane Felix.
In 1987, Hurricane Emily hit Bermuda and did $25 million worth of damage. Injured more than 100, but killed no one. Bermuda was lucky. Now Felix is knocking at the door, at the windows, at the harbor, and at the beaches.
One honeymoon couple, Tom and Chris Beckinsale, have put the champagne on ice, sort of, to wait for the end of the storm sometime tomorrow. The latest computer projections from the National Hurricane Center show Felix now has winds of 85 miles per hour and going on from Bermuda to the heavily populated east coast of the United States.
The storm should stay the same strength. We're not sure where it's going to go, but by tomorrow, residents from the Carolinas to Cape Cod should be advised that hurricane watches are likely to be posted.
Tonight, Bermuda waits on the whims and the winds of Hurricane Felix. It will be an all-night vigil. Tom Pettit, NBC.
Hurricane Felix unleashed its fury on the island of Bermuda. It's one of the biggest ever, and it's headed our way. Killer surf already closed beaches along New Jersey and Long Island. Good evening. Hurricane Felix is bearing down on Bermuda right now. That makes it about 1,000 miles away from us.
But Felix is already flexing its muscles on our beaches. Rough waves and riptides from Fire Island to South Jersey, where a swimmer drowned today. That's 4 dead on the East Coast since the weekend. And this is the scene in Bermuda. People are battening down the hatches and going underground. The basement is the safest place for them to be right now. Roads are closed, power is out, and there's no way off the island until the storm passes. Nick Gregory is here now to tell us when that might be. Nick.
Well, Rosanna, the storm has been moving slowly. We've been watching it tonight, and what I've been watching as you look at the satellite loop with me is that it looks like it's trying to get a little bit better organized again. Now, remember, it weakened from a Category 3 to a Category 1 storm, but now it looks like there's a pretty better picture of what the eye is starting to look like once again as it continues now moving more to the west-northwest, and that's an important note to keep in mind, because now it is no longer moving just northerly, but it's actually making more of a westward trend in the motion. Here's the latest coordinates just near Bermuda, winds at 85 miles per hour, and again, we'll see what happens as it moves closer, but again, it's a couple of 100 miles away, but it's already affecting our coastal areas.
It upsets me, though, because, you know, not working, I want to have a good time, and I can't. You know, go in the water, enjoy myself. I can't do that now. It's no fun.
Long Island beachgoers trying to find relief from the heat found disappointment today as many of their favorite beaches were closed. Large sea swells from Hurricane Felix, some as much as 10 feet high, pounded shorelines posting a heavy surf advisory from Montauk Point down through New Jersey.
If you can imagine a 6-foot wall of water breaking into nothing but sand, that's what it was like. There was some potential for people to have some very serious neck and back injuries.
Lifeguards had their jobs cut out for them, keeping eager bathers away from the dangerous riptides.
I was a little aggravated at that, you know. I mean, I'm a man. I'm old enough to decide if I want to throw my body in the water or not. But I understand they got a job to do, so I didn't really argue with them.
Forecasters at the National Weather Service have been watching Felix, especially with the storm moving toward the North Atlantic coast.
The greatest hazards are going to be created from the sea swells. The National Weather Service has issued a heavy surf advisory for large breaking waves along the shore. We are looking at some beach erosion and the possibility of some minor to moderate coastal flooding, especially during times of high tide over the next few days.
Local stores have begun to help their customers prepare in case Felix comes north, but there will always be those who are just waiting for a day like today.
They closed it off because the waves are too big, so I was like right down here.
May be exciting for the surfers, but we tell you we got a call from Asbury Park today, and someone did drown in the rough surf today, so really nothing to be too excited about. We're going to watch Felix. The potential is for it to be somewhere off the East Coast by Thursday. Nonetheless, the coastal flooding will continue and the rough surf with the swells ahead of the storm. I'll have more on the track of Felix in our full forecast a little bit later in the 10 o'clock news. John?
All right, thanks, Nick. I was at the beach this morning on the east end of Long Island on the South Shore, and I want to tell you, I was amazed at the size of those waves with that storm so far away. I mean, it's really scary.
Well, that's what tells you about the storm system, that it is so large that it is affecting hundreds of miles with rough surf. So that's why we're keeping a very close eye as to the future movement of Felix.
All right, thanks.
Now, just south of Bermuda, could be headed this way. This is what parts of Bermuda have been going through all day. Gale force winds of up to 70 miles an hour have been battering the shoreline, tossing around boats and causing other damage. Along the East Coast, people have already felt the storm. This was the scene at Seagate, Brooklyn today. High winds and strong currents have forced a number of beaches in our area to close down. Mr. G has been tracking Felix all day, and he's in the Weather Center now with the very latest. G?
All right, Jack, the real big story is the size of this storm. Take a look at the latest satellite photo from space, and you'll be able to see Felix taking aim on Bermuda. And you can see once again the storm center roughly about 50 miles to the south and west of Bermuda. And the track of the storm once again will be very close to the middle Atlantic states. Now let's take a look once again at the stats of this storm. With top winds of 75 miles per hour, it is gusting upwards of 85 miles per hour, and the movement is west-northwest at 14 miles per hour. And the storm, even though it's 650 miles south and east of Hatteras, North Carolina, a heavy surf advisory is in effect already from Sandy Hook to Sebastian Outlet. A matter of fact, wave heights tomorrow in and around the tri-state area could equal 6 to 10 feet. Now, we're going to have more on Felix. We'll follow the storm very carefully and give you the latest later on. Karen, Jack?
Gee, thanks very much. Well, as Jack just told you, Hurricane Felix is already causing havoc here at home. Beaches have been closing down, leaving ocean-seeking New Yorkers without a place to swim. Helen Johnson picks up that part of the story.
Swimming prohibited was the greeting hopeful swimmers got at Robert Moses and Jones Beach State Parks today. Huge waves tumbled onto the sand, spawning dangerous riptides.
Are you disappointed?
Yeah, very. Very disappointing.
A combination higher than usual tides and Hurricane Felix forced the red flags to fly.
The water was way back on the beach this morning, came over and flooded over the berm, back towards the boardwalk area. In some cases, it reached the boardwalk and actually went under the boardwalk and flooded the Pitch Putt golf course.
This is big. There's no other word for it. You're talking about waves with 10-foot faces. That's big stuff. That's scary stuff.
I think I'd be scared to go in if I went in the water anyway.
They say 40 or 50,000 people come out to Jones Beach on a hot, humid weekday like this one, and they're still expecting that many today.
The waves are outstanding. It's just nice to basically walk around and just enjoy the beach. It's unbelievable.
They like wipe you out. Oh, they're fun.
Some ocean lovers began to push the limits of staying close to shore and were rounded up by guards carrying life buoys tied to ropes.
And when the water comes to the beach, it goes back and pulls you right in.
With the temperature the way it is, we're trying to keep them in as close as possible and tell them about not being in there at all.
The rough conditions allowed veteran guards a chance to practice their skills in the heavy surf.
We don't get out there, and we don't know what it's like out there. We can't expect to save people on the shore. So we go out there, we test the waters.
Shortly before 2:30, a small section of the patrolled beach was reopened near the main lifeguard chair. But Captain Bob Lenti says that's not the final word. Tomorrow's high tides could put a stop to swimming once more. He suggests you call before you go. On Jones Beach, Helen Johnson, Channel 11 News at 10.
Winds up is anybody's guess right now, but tonight, coastal residents from the Carolinas to Cape Cod, and that includes you, are all warned not to ignore this powerful storm. Wild waves, howling winds, and lashing rains pounded Bermuda, but this mecca for tourists looked more like a deserted island. With few exceptions, people heeded the warnings and headed inland or off the island entirely. Along the Jersey shore and the south shore of Long Island, the red flags and no swimming signs went up. The force of the hurricane is already causing a dangerous surf and deadly undertow. Right now, here's Al Roker with the latest.
Thanks a lot, Sue. And in fact, there are surf advisories and riptide advisories from California, or I should say from Florida, all the way up into Boston. They've got a very, very powerful storm we're going to have to deal with. This is the latest on Hurricane Felix. Right now, 625 miles east-southeast of Cape Hatteras. Winds are out of the west-northwest, 85 miles per hour. It is moving west-northwest at 12 miles per hour. So we're watching this storm. Right now, the track of it is kind of difficult to determine, but anywhere from Charleston all the way up to Boston, we have to keep an eye out. Probably by tomorrow morning, we will have hurricane watches in effect. We'll keep you posted, and when we come back a little bit later, we'll have the latest on the track of Felix. Back to you.
East Coast next. Good evening, I'm Bill Butel. Diana Williams is off tonight, and Roz